What is up, guys? Welcome back to the SUPES channel. My name is Matt Ramos, and on this channel I am to entertain, inform, and inspire using the topic of discussion as always, which is superheroes. So guys, today is a different type of video than what I normally post. And that's because today I'm sitting down with a very special guest that I'm about to introduce, and we're going to be talking about everything from superheroes to opening up and being vulnerable about masculinity. So without further ado, guys, please welcome a very special guest. He was one of the stars from Jane the Virgin. He directed movies like 5 Feet Apart and Clouds, and now he's an author with his newest book coming out. Available now, links in the description, called Man Enough. Guys, please give a warm welcome to Justin Baldoni.
What's up, dude? I want to take you around with me everywhere I go. You're like the ultimate hype man.
Dude, I'm down. I'm down. I got you, bro.
I mean, like, jeez. You're so good at that. It's so good to see you, buddy. I'm so happy we could spend some time and talk to each other.
Thank you, brother. It's such an honor to have you on here, and I appreciate you for your time, and I'm excited to have a very powerful conversation with you. So with that being said, let's go to work. So Justin, I have a brand that is based on superheroes and my passion for superheroes. So I wanted to start off our conversation by asking you, who was your favorite superhero growing up as a kid, and who inspired you to be who you are today?
You know what's funny is the superhero I resonated most with growing up was the Silver Surfer.
Powerful.
And I don't know, man, there was something, I think I resonated. There was something, and I was so young, I didn't understand, what he was doing or experiencing, but there was like this, I think it was this feeling of being this lone, like isolated person, traversing the universe, like on this mission. And I think I felt that. I think I felt that as a young boy. Maybe I didn't even recognize I was feeling that. Now as a grown man, I'm realizing that's kind of what masculinity did, is it just made me feel like that, that like powerful but lonely person, and nobody really understands or sees my power. But like, oh my God, there's so many superheroes. It's hard to pick one, but that was the one that I remember being obsessed with when I was like 6 years old, 7, 8 years old. Yeah.
So Justin, in that amazing answer, you mentioned masculinity, and that transfers over into my next question, because I want to talk about your new book, Man Enough. What inspired you to write this book, and what are your goals in the way this book is going to change the way we define masculinity in today's society?
That's a great question. Well, first of all, what inspired me to write the book was that I sit at an intersection of power and privilege. Like, I'm a straight white dude that's successful, and I don't have any oppression. Nothing is keeping me from achieving my dreams because of the way that I look or act or my sexual orientation. So in that, it's interesting how unhappy I've been and was. Like, here I am and I have everything, and yet why am I so conflicted? Why am I unhappy about so many different things? Why do I not recognize myself when I'm around certain people? Or why do I feel this knot in my stomach when I hear something being said about a woman, yet feel afraid to say something to the man who said it? There's all kinds of this inner turmoil and conflict I've experienced throughout my life. And then really in my 20s, I was taking stock of like all the different types of men that I was being on a daily basis. It was almost like I was acting not just as a job, but in my life. And I recognized how performative it is to be a man, how much every day we perform and how much we compensate for, and how deeply insecure I was, yet I felt like I wasn't able to ever tell anybody that I was insecure. Because if I did, and they found out I was insecure, then I would be considered weak or a girl or gay or any of the other, homophobic slurs that were given. And I'm like, how come we're not talking about this? It's broken. Mm-hmm. The whole damn thing is broken. And I've suffered from the very same things that I've also helped perpetuate. I've been a perpetrator and a victim. I talk about in the book, like, I was the guy on the soccer team that was getting tied to the goalpost when I was a freshman. And then I was also the guy who a couple of days later would tie somebody else to the goalpost. And that goalpost, which is constantly moving back and forth, is masculinity. So I want men to read this book with an open mind, with an open heart. And at the end of the day, I want men to know that call yourself a man, then you are a man and you are enough. You don't have to be anything more than that.
And Justin, it's crazy that you speak about this the way that you do, because for me and my personal struggle with masculinity, it had to do something related to you. And just for some background info, I grew up in a house of women. I love my mom and my two sisters, and on the TV, it was either always like the Bachelorette, Jane the Virgin, rom-coms, chick flicks, and growing up in this type of household, again, I didn't have a say in what was on TV, so I learned to enjoy, you know, what my mom and my sisters enjoyed. So I enjoyed watching Jane the Virgin, and we would sit down and wait for the next episode every single week. By the way, Team Raphael all day, every day. But yeah, so I enjoyed this stuff. But with a show like Jane the Virgin, like, that is a show that has a predominantly female audience. So again, I wanted to talk. I was passionate about the show. I genuinely enjoyed it, and I always wanted to talk about it with people. The way I talk about superheroes and theorize about what's going to happen in the next superhero movie, I wanted to talk about it with other people about what's going to happen in the next season or the next episode of Jane the Virgin. But, you know, when you go to the locker room, talking about Jane the Virgin in the boys' locker room, yeah, that's not acceptable. You know what I'm saying? So, but then when I would go to my female friends and other females that watched the show and enjoyed it, I would talk about it with them, and we would have these very passionate, very energetic conversations. However, I was questioning in my head, like, does this make me less of a man? Am I coming off as, you know, are these girls now seeing me as a girl? Like, I was questioning my masculinity and my identity in moments like that. And, you know, I think it all ties back to the way we view ourselves, because at the end of the day, being a man or a woman or being just the best versions of ourselves all comes back to owning who we are and owning the things we are genuinely passionate about. That's what this is all about, essentially. So it got to the point where I was just like, screw it, I am who I am, and I'm gonna own that. If they think I'm less of a man because I like Jane the Virgin, then guess what? That is entirely their opinion. But I know who I am, and I think that's how we have to live our lives. We have to live our lives just being unapologetically ourselves and being confident in who we are. Because when we are vulnerable with the rest of the world and just confident in who we are, then we attract people of the same mentality. We attract people that are just as passionate about certain things as we are. And now, here I am, a couple years later, sitting with one of the actors from the show that I was just so extremely passionate about. And it's all because I've been vulnerable with myself, and I've been just confident in who I am, that I've been able to attract just the people that are of the same mentality. Now, here I am sitting with you, Justin, one of the stars of the show that I genuinely enjoyed and just sat down with my family, waiting for each episode every single week. One of the stars from Jane the Virgin. Now, we're sitting down and we're having this conversation, bro.
I love that. What you just described is the masculinity conundrum. This invisible force that you didn't even know you felt, that caused you to second guess something that you liked. You found something, your heart enjoyed it, it made you happy, and yet while you were watching it, you experienced shame around the fact that you liked it. That is the issue. And that issue looks like you as a cool dude liking a show called Jane the Virgin that mostly women watch. And it also looks like a lot of other things that are either far more simple or far more complex that lead to bullying, violence, and all kinds of other things. And eventually it caused a lot of people to kill themselves. It's that simple. So thank you for addressing it in such a simple way, because at the end of the day, all I want men to know is that it's okay to like what you like. These things, we didn't create these things. Who decided? And also, it's so culturally specific, especially here. It looks different in every culture in every country. Who decided that a man couldn't enjoy Jane the Virgin? Who decided that we have to wear blue and not pink? Who says that that we can't paint our fingers to, like fingernails? Who says all of these things? Who says that, like, we have to dress a certain way, or we can't wear, or hell, we can't wear women's clothes. There's a lot of men that love to wear women's clothes, but they can't do it because they have to do it in private because they're going to get bullied, but they're straight. The whole idea is, like, all of us have things that we like, that make our souls feel good, that make our hearts feel good. And so often we're stuck here worrying about what other people will think of us. In reality, we have to get rid of it and go down here to our hearts. So the book at its core, what I'm talking about, what you're talking about, is making that journey, that hero's journey that so many superheroes have to make in their lives, from their heads to their hearts.
That's so incredible. And the other day I was journaling, and this quote just spoke to me out of nowhere. And the quote was, "The keys to our hearts are locked behind the doors of our mind." And I think it all comes full circle at this point in time, because as men, we're always in our heads. We're always second guessing ourselves. We're always questioning what it means to be man enough. And, I think what being a man is being vulnerable. I think being a man is getting out of our heads and into our hearts and embracing our feelings and being vulnerable with ourselves, because when we're coming from our hearts, that is when we are at our best. That's when we are in a place where we are best suited to help serve people, to help people, to go out there and make an impact. And I think that's what being a man is all about. It's being vulnerable. And with the majority of just like, I guess, the men in our society today, we're always in our heads. We're always second guessing ourselves and questioning what it means to be man enough. But it's when we come from our hearts that we can truly be ourselves, be vulnerable, and be the best versions of who we can possibly be. So, Justin, my next question to you is if there's someone out there that's struggling with what it means to be man enough, they're struggling with their identity and their masculinity, what do you have to say to someone out there who's struggling?
Well, the first thing I would say is you are not alone, because all of us are feeling that way. Every single person, whether they want to admit it or not, is on some conscious or subconscious or unconscious level struggling with that very same thing. The difference is awareness. Are we aware of it or not? And what I would also say is it starts with internal reflection. All of it starts with taking account of who we are, our actions, and how we feel about something. As men, we're taught to not reflect on how we feel about things. So often you speak to guys my age or men that are older and you ask them how they feel. They have no idea how they feel, because feeling is not a socially acceptable thing for a man. We have to be impermeable and we have to be strong. We have to be superhero-like, right? We got to have our armor on. Things can't get to us and bother us. And we got to be unwavering in our commitment to truth and growth and all of this type of stuff. And like, we can't let shit bother us. But who said that? Who decided that? That is not any definition of anything that I would want, except maybe the structure of my house. I want my house to be that way. I would like my house to be impermeable so that it protects me, right? But at the same time, I don't want it to be so rigid that it just like blows over in a storm without a foundation. Look at trees, man. Look at trees. Down here, I live up in Ojai, and we just had massive winds up here. And these oak trees, these big, massive, rigid oak trees, they were knocking down and blowing over like it was nothing. Roots popping out of the ground. Big, fat trees that are now dead. Guess what trees didn't blow over? Bendy trees, palm trees, whose roots go all the way down to the ground and have a foundation. So this definition of masculinity, this thing that so many of us are facing, the rigid nature of the way that we're supposed to live, it's not constructive for any human being. It's not even constructive for nature. Nature doesn't even work that way. So what I would say is you got to look at yourself and ask yourself, how are you feeling? Feel. And if you don't know how you're feeling, then you got to go deeper and find out, well, why don't I know what I'm feeling? Why do I feel numb? And the chances are we have been suppressing how we're feeling about things for so long that the only acceptable thing to feel is anger and rage. I mean, I don't want to bring this up, and this isn't political, but look at what just happened in America. Look at these mass shootings that are happening. These are men, these are white men that have no outlet for their pain or their frustration, and they get angry and it boils up to the top. And this is a systemic issue. This is just an isolated incident. This is what is happening. We have to treat men like human beings. We cannot police each other. We have to love each other. We have to create room for each other to feel and to grow. We have to be vulnerable with each other so that like the Avengers, each of us together, we might have different strengths, but we also have different weaknesses, and we have to come together to compensate and make up for those weaknesses as a team. The Avengers by themselves could never defeat Thanos, ever, right? They all failed, but together they come together, and their insecurities, their weaknesses are overcome by their collective strength. And that's what we have to figure out how to do as men and in the world as human beings. Our superpowers are our feelings. And we don't realize that they are. They're our feelings. They're the things that allow us to connect with one another. So ironically, speaking of superheroes, we have to do the opposite of superheroes. We have to take off our armor. Iron Man's got to remove his stuff, right? Because the armor and these things are connecting us from feeling not only with each other, but with ourselves. That armor prevents us from connection, from looking in the mirror and asking myself, how do I feel? And so often we go through life and we don't even realize we have our armor on. So that's what I would start with. I would start with, how do I feel in this moment? And then look at your behavior. Look at the way you're interacting with people. Look at the way you interact with women or other men. Are you noticing yourself changing behavior based on who you are in your circumstances? Are you noticing that you're talking to your mother different than you're talking to a woman in your life? Or are you talking to a partner different? Is there trauma that's coming up? Are you feeling closed off when you're around your parents or certain people? You don't want someone to touch you. All of that stuff starts somewhere. It's all socialization. You got to check in with yourself. Are you interrupting women? Are you taking up more space than you should? Do you get defensive when a woman or a man gives you feedback, right? All of these things are various versions of armor that little by little and day by day, we have to take off in order to become the full superhero, potential, powerful human beings that we are.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, man. And it's crazy. It's crazy that you brought up that analogy of superheroes and Iron Man and his army. And
well, I'm looking at all of it.
You can see I got a little Iron Man right there.
Well, no, I'm not gonna lie, right? So I'm looking at you, and I know you're superhero obsessed. You're a genius. I love all your videos, and I love following you on TikTok. And because I'm a geek at my core too. Although I feel like today I look a little bit like Cyborg. But right there, I'm looking at all this stuff, and this is such an analogy for masculinity. Like superheroes, that's what Stan Lee was doing.
Yeah,
he was giving commentary on all of it, and yeah.
And I find it very interesting that your favorite superhero growing up as a kid was the Silver Surfer, because Stan Lee created the Silver Surfer to be this outlier. He comes from outer space and he arrives on Earth, and he's looking at man fighting man and all of these different wars, and he's just like, what are you guys doing? Why are you guys doing this? Why are you guys fighting each other? And these characters were created to represent us and our own struggles and to give us something to aspire to. So what do you think the world would look like if we took a character like the Silver Surfer and modeled our lives after a character like that?
I think for me, in many ways, and you hit the nail on the head, that's what I've subconsciously become. Is like, I'm here on Earth and I have no idea why we're doing this to ourselves. The difference is it's not about man fighting man, it's about man fighting with ourselves. It's me fighting with me. I am the man fighting the man. Mm-hmm. And why am I doing this to myself? And I'll end with this. This incredible author, Bell Hooks, and I encourage everybody to read her, says that every man at some point in his life has to go through a psychic act of self-mutilation to kill off a piece of himself in order to be accepted, because the feeling isn't accepted. And that's what we're doing. Right? So if I'm the Silver Surfer, I'm just looking at it and saying, why am I doing this to myself? This doesn't make any sense. We have to stand up and fight for good.
1000%. And I think superheroes would be completely useless if we never looked to them as inspiration. So like that, we can be just better people in the real world today, because God knows that the world needs, more people to step up and be leaders and to just live as the best versions of ourselves, where we're helping people, we're being kind to others, and we're just doing what we can to help make the world a better place, and the world needs more people like that. So guys, with that being said, make sure to go check out Justin's new book called Man Enough. I highly recommend it. I cannot wait to get my copy. It's on the way as we speak. And again, make sure to follow Justin and all of his content. Links will be in the description down below. You guys know him to be a very wise man, judging off of the conversation we had in today's video. So make sure to go check him out. Go check out his new book, Man Enough. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching this video. I love you guys 3000, and I'll see you guys next time.